Well, hello everyone, and hope the apocalypse is treating you well. We have had some new requests on our last video, so I'm going to look at Draconis Primes first. And he has two requests. A Vader fleet with an Onager and some kind of heavy hitter, probably an ISD, something that can snipe the main target enough that shields are non-issue once the big guy gets in range. A squadron complement focused primarily, but not necessarily exclusively, on multi-role squads, particularly the TIE Advanced and TIE Phantom. Okay, well, right. So, we'll start with the Onager. I'm not sure how much you maybe already built this fleet a little bit, Draconis Prime, but we'll give it a go on what our thoughts are, how you might outfit it. So, let's add the Onager first, Testbed, or Star Destroyer. So, realistically, Testbed is just better. And, okay, the dice mix I prefer on the Testbed. I prefer 4 red and 3 black versus whatever's going on here. 3 red, 2 blue, 3 black. Can't make up our mind. This is the same amount of dice and potentially a higher swinging damage. Now, you could say that the blues are more reliable on the Destroyer, but we're Vader. We're just more reliable anyway. And you want to be able to reroll that spike. And then the 14-point difference. The sides, they're not so good, but that's what you have your ISD for. That is what you have your ISD for. So we'll go with the Testbed. So, with an Onager, there are an inordinate amount of fancy weapon teams we could add. We're running Vader. We do not give two fucks. We are going to do a cheapest chips Onager. So what do we need? We need a strategic advisor. Helps us with our opponent. We need Cataclysm. For the first turn, pop down an ignition token and shoot them in their deployment zone if they don't move. And we go for the really cheap 5 points orbital bombardment particle cannon. It's 2 points cheaper than the medium range one. Its critical effect doesn't happen that often. Not that you don't get a critical that often, but most of the time people spread out. You know, like the main thing you're doing is for the long range, because normally you have short range with that Onager beam. 5 points, you put it forward, 2 range bands, you're able to shoot into their deployment zone on turn 2. Sometimes turn 1. So yeah, that, like the orbital bomb can. And now look, we have strategic advisor, a title, and an orbital bombardment cannon for 110 points. What does that remind you? The price of the Star Destroyer. Okay. So we're already kitted out. Testbed needs a points adjustment. Badly needs a points adjustment by about +5 at least. But anyway, let's take advantage of it. We're here not to test, but to take advantage of what we can do. Now, we've already spent 110 points on ships. I think what we need to do then is, I don't like the idea of just 2 ships, so we'll go for the cheaper of the Star Destroyers. Simoon, an ISD-1 is cheaper, but it doesn't have a defensive retrofit. Now, we're not putting Vader on the Onager, we're putting him on the ISD, so therefore I prefer to take the ISD with the defensive retrofit. The ISD-2, fantastic, but again, we want upgrades. And as well as that, we've got an Onager. So they are going to want to be coming to us. So we don't need the reach the ISD-2 gives. So we go with a Kuat. That 8 points is a lot, and it's the ISD one is probably more consistent in damage. The Kuat allows you to just spike a bit more. And again with Vader, because we're fixing our dice rolls effectively by re-rolling whenever we want, we'll go with a Kuat. So obviously we'll stick Mr. Vader on it. And then Brunson. So reason why we're going with Brunson is the idea here for me is that people will want to get to the Onager and fucking murder it. Now, if they don't, and if they try and kill the ISD, we want the ISD to be as tanky as possible. If they do get to the Onager and kill it, we just want them to not have enough to deal with a Kuat. Now, obviously, we'll make the Kuat even scarier with Avenger. So, if we hit them, we strategic advisor them, we hit them with the Onager, then we wait them out with our other ships, and then once they've come in, we go, here's a Vader, Avenger, ISD Kuat. That is the theory. We just remove their shields and their defense tokens, and then Avenger is sitting there waiting. Like, who really wants to run at an Avenger Kuat? Not me. Not me. So the idea then is to work them down before they ever get to the Kuat. So then, normally I'd say APTs, but with assault concussion missiles, it's like you're hitting a structural damage every time you get that APT. And we're not worrying about getting through the shields. You know? So APT it is. And finally ECM, because we want it as tanky as possible. So again, it's 172 points including Vader, cheapest ships. Okay, so then we're just going to add 2 more ships. Again, we're plinking away. If there's a big target, we're plinking away, and we're giving our stuff to wait it out. So in Architects, now we're just going to go with Architects. Why aren't we throwing something else in? Well, we've already got the rerolls out of Vader. You're going to be exhausting your contain every turn to reroll the dice you want. And we also need to add Hondo. The reason why we need to add Hondo is because Cataclysm and Hondo are both at the start of the ship phase. So, if you have a target that is in range, normally what happens with the ignition token is you have to activate the Onager, and after you've activated it, the activation is finished, you deploy the token. However, Hondo gives you a concentrate fire at the start of the ship phase, and then at the start of the ship phase you immediately spend that, and you can place your targeting token down, and then you can shoot them on turn 1, potentially in their deployment zone. Not always the best, because sometimes you want to put it in the path of something that can't move that fast, or can't move unpredictably, that kind of has to go forward. So you get the black dice. But yeah, Hondo and Cataclysm and Orbital Bombardment Cannon allows you to fire into your opponent's deployment zone on turn 1. And if you're first player, before they even move. Again, you probably want to try, if you know you can wait it out, you can probably strategic advisor and then wait for them to wander in and then blow them up. Now, so we want to plink away shields with that, but let's not just have the Onager to do all the work. So let's throw in our Raider 2, and then let's give it disposable capacitors and heavy ion emplacements. Now, you'll throw 3 blue dice at long range, forward concentrate fire, Vader reroll. This is fairly cheap. 60 points, strip off the shields off a big ship, and potentially you might get a second shot at doing it. In addition to the pressure the Onager is putting on it, could be well worth it. And then you've got the ISD, which is also pressuring the shields with these solid concussion missiles. So we're trying to make one particular point weak, and we're hammering it and hammering it and hammering it. And then finally, because we talked about first turn and dropping that Cataclysm, we don't just want to get the red dice if we can. We want to try and engineer situations where if the person isn't careful and doesn't stay back a little bit, we'll get a black range shot turn 1. Now for 2 points, there is Admiral Titus. So you're messing with their speed, you're slowing them down or speeding them up. And it means they have to be careful with every ship. If they start a ship on 1, or God forbid 2 ships on 1, you can drop it to 0. You force what their first activation is going to be, or they're taking a long-ranged orbital bombardment cannon to the face with no defense tokens. None of these are good things. None of these things will make them a happy feeling. And there we're at 400 points. So let's talk about objectives. So we're gonna be answering something else about objectives, so I'm just going to focus on the ones I've selected. Okay, so surprise attack. So the second player places the station at distance 1 to 5 of the first player's edge, then place the remaining obstacles as normal. When deploying fleets, the first player must deploy their flagship before deploying any other ships. The flagship must overlap the station, yada yada yada, yada yada yada, and then you raid them. So, let's say you have a MC-80 or any other Speed 2 ship as a flagship. Yeah, they're in a bit of trouble because they can only go Speed 1. Titus will put them to Speed 0. And you can nav. You can raid their nav. Just make sure when you hundo, you pick navigate. Do not give them the token to get out of your own raid. Surprise attack is definitely an objective that can be flipped, but we're doing with a very specific plan. We know where their flagship is. We are going to fucking kill their flagship, and they are going to regret everything. If they have a big savior ship coming in, we can use Titus. If their flagship is slow, we can use Titus on the flagship. And this is the thing. While it does allow them to get closer to your deployment zone, you can deploy the Onager where you want. So you don't need to be facing that station directly. You can be off to one side. So that's why I've chosen surprise attack for that. Most wanted also works. But I think surprise attack is a good choice there. And it isn't always. Rift ambush is what I've selected next. Now, remember I said there are dust fields, and they're bad for the Onager. Well, they're still bad for the Onager, but you place all the obstacles. And there's no station. So basically you just take the dust fields and you throw them off where they will not be relevant. Which is probably near your deployment zone in a line. And with control of those dust fields, what you can do then is you can use them to protect one side of the Onager, and then you have the ISD on the other. So anyone flanking that cannon is either going to not be able to come in and attack you because you're hiding one side effectively, or is going to be hit with an ISD. Also, you mess with your opponent's speed. So you can move them closer into the Onager cannon. And then you can drop their speed. So effectively, if they have 2 ships that are deployed at speed 1, well, they're both being, you can slow them both. You can also set it up that something is going to run into an asteroid. So for example, you drop the speed of something and maneuver it. And then if it wants to speed up, it's only going to be able to go speed 1. It'll hit the asteroid. And the rift then is you kind of have it where you want it. So they have to be very careful. So they're dodging the cannon, they're dodging the rift, and their maneuvers are being messed up by the rift. It's too bloody close. And you've got the Kuat. So yeah, they're getting closer to the Onager. Grand, you can do power slides with the rift. Fucking A for you. Have a great, wonderful time. But they're getting closer to Avenger Kuat, and their approach may not be as controlled as they want it to be. Now, sometimes the rift won't be as helpful, so maybe try and side it off a little bit, and then move the other obstacles away. You have to be careful how you think and use this objective. I won't lie, it's not a fire and forget one, but that's why we picked Rift Ambush. And then Solar Corona. Simply, you get to pick what your onager is facing. You get to pick the approach lines, and there's no real side effect. Try to remember the Corona. Nobody does. It's not the most exciting of objectives, but I think in this particular case. So I think it's a solid fleet. It makes good use of Vader. It has no squadrons, because the plan is pop any Kuats, or not pop any Kuats, pop any Quasars, anything like that. With the Onager, I wouldn't use it against somebody in their first or second game, and I'd be careful of, if you're teaching new players, I'd be careful overusing it, because it can make people feel rather oppressed. So just be careful with your meta if your meta is not that competitive in that thing. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so that is the Onager Vader fleet. They'll be linked in the comments as always. So the next request we got was a squadron complement focused primarily but not exclusively on multi-role squads, particularly the TIE Advanced and TIE Phantom. I have built something. It's untested, okay? And obviously I've built a fleet around it, because I don't think the multi-role squads within the Imperial side have the same punch as Rebel multi-role squads. Like, there's no X-Wing there. And there's no stuff like Dash and stuff like that. So I don't think their multi-role stuff, I think their specialist squads are better equipped to just do the thing they're going to do. However, we've built around it, and sure, we'll show you what we have. So we'll start with the squads, okay? So these are not cheap. So let's start with some. So I was looking at Whisper. I was looking at the TIE Phantoms. I was looking at Whisper. And then I was looking at Whisper in the context of the other, which is the TIE Advanced. Now, Whisper is fantastic. Let's take a look at them. After defending against an attack, if you spend a defense token, you may move up to distance 1, even if you're engaged. That is fantastic, except in one specific question. When you've got a TIE Advanced, they've all got escort. At which point, everybody else is fucking dead by the time Whisper is using their ability. Which means you've either lost or you've won at that point. And the scatter isn't as valuable because you're trying to keep these people alive. So I don't think Whisper, when you're combining both of them, I don't think that's what you want. Vader, yes. Okay, he is a very expensive escort. He is. But so we're looking at this while attacking. Each of your crit icons adds 1 damage to the damage total and everything. Great. His blues crits are effective against squads. Yes, but so his is black hit crit. Much more effective against ships. So we really, really need Vader, to my mind. Then, so the TIE Advanced is 12 points. It's escort, 5 hulls, 4 speed, and 3 blue, and 1 black. Now, for 1 more point, you get Tempest, which makes it a bomber. So I think the next one you want is Tempest. And then for the low price of 3 points, you get inbuilt rerolls, red dice, which can spike higher, and 2 braces. So, like, 3 points. It has to be Zyrtec. Now, we want to both be able to move the ball around. The Phantoms are already moved with Croak, but again, we're doubling down on that advantage. So we want Intel, and we want Dengar. And we want Dengar because visibility gives Vader counter, and then Vader's a mini Shara Bay. You've got these big squadrons, and they're doing damage back. Now, we could add yet another escorting TIE Advanced, but I think we want to add Black Squadron. It's 3 points cheaper, and it gives counter 1. Okay, so it's got 2 less hull, but it's got the escort, it's keeping the Phantoms alive, and with Dengar now it's counter 2. Okay, and then finally let's add some Phantoms. Now the issue with Phantoms is the damage is incredibly spiky. Let's take a look. 4 blue, fantastic, X-Wing standard in terms of killing squadrons. And then 2 red. 2 red non-bomber is very swingy. But that is 6 red dice split between 3 separate attacks. It's not shabby. They've only got 4 hull, but we're protecting them with those TIE Advanced and blacks. They can move with Dengar, they can move around fairly easily, and they can also cloak onto stations, get hit points back. Now, so we've got 8 squadrons. So we are going to do the classic James cheap and cheerful. Going to go with a Quasar Fire, and we'll add 2 Gazantes with comms nets. And this is our squadron commanding force. Now, to double down on the escort theme and what we're doing, we are going to add, and I don't often add them, we're going to add Instructor Gorn. So you've got Dengar adding counter Gorn. Now this flotilla of ships is excuse the terrible pun. It's there to run in and probably die, but it'll get the squadrons there. And it'll have concentric flax fire. With the Quasar, you're going to be trying to keep it alive with maneuvering. The same with the Gazantes, but don't expect them to live too long. Try and be careful with them, but if you can keep Gorn in the middle of them, fantastic. We're not really putting anything more, because this is the thing. I think this is probably, if you're using the squadrons requested, this is probably the best you're going to get. So we need something to take advantage of it. So again, being the cheap bastard I am, we'll go with a Kuat. And this isn't, this fleet is more going with your multi-role squadrons. And do the thing. So, Sloane. Sloane is going to help in all cases. So, when a friendly squadron without rogue is attacking, you may spend 1 dice with an accuracy icon to choose and spend 1 of the defender's defense token. And while attacking a ship, you may also reroll 1 crit. So, helps with the TIE Phantoms attacking the ships, and helps with all those counter dice. Because you can't reroll the crits, that's fine. But if you get an accuracy against an ace, let's say an ace attacks Darth Vader, he's rolling 1 blue for Dengar, 1 blue for the Instructor Gorn. Well, there's a good possibility he's going to flip that ace to scatter. And then that ace is going to die. The same with Black Squadron, maybe rolling 2 to 3 counters. Zyrtec and Tempest So when that Squadron Alpha strike comes in, Sloane makes it more punishing, and with the helping out of the dice. So then we'll look at officers, and we're going to go with Governor Price. Because we want to be able to pick that moment where everything happens. The squads go in, everything happens, and then Avenger, going to be Avenger by the way, again, comes in and murders the shit out of it. Because the squads have used up their counters, their scatters, so we can flak if we want. Ships have been hit by quasars, have had their tokens exhausted. Avenger goes in and does the business. And then we'll give it some boarding troopers as well. We've got stuff that'll hand off ComsNet's tokens. Okay, then obviously we need to keep it alive. So electronic countermeasures and some leading shots for rerolls, and finally external racks. So let's say we have a squadron at close range. Vader Dengar has exhausted its scatter, and this squadron is annoying you. Well, then you flak, then you pop external racks, and then you pop Avenger, and then you go, sucks to be you, because you got three black dice, 1 blue, and the blue will give you the reroll as well. So that is an option. External racks are not always great against squadrons, but sometimes you'll go, that fucking thing is going to ruin my life. Therefore, we're shooting torpedoes at the tiny guy. Okay, and then we'll do, we want most wanted. We have a load of cheap options for it. And then, so yeah, most wanted, it's the normal, it's the easy one to go for here. Fleet in Being. Okay, so my thoughts on fleets in Being, I haven't tried it a lot, but here you've got the Avenger with ECM, so being able to get back your defense token is great. On the Gazantes, again, get back your defense token, it's great, and you're already tearing through their defense tokens early. So their objective tokens should be gone fairly fast. You know? Now, it's a slight bit counterintuitive with Avenger, don't get me wrong. The other option you could probably go with is Rift Ambush. It helps against onagers. You can use the Gravity Rift to really handbrake turn that ISD, and it hides your squadron. So either of those, I think, more and more I think about it, probably Rift Ambush is probably a better choice than Fleet in Being. I've talked myself out of Fleet in Being. Rift Ambush is a better choice. And finally, we'll go with superior positions. Like, I'm reluctant a little bit against other squadron balls, but I think we can do a good bit of damage to other squadron balls if they come in on us. Plus, we've got the TIE Phantoms for getting in around the back and getting those tokens. So, I hope Draconis Prime, these are helpful. And now I'll put both things in the comments. And now I'm going to address the second question on the last video, which was Thanos Ilnix again. I was wondering, when you say things like opening salvo is a trap, could you go into more details about why you think that's the case? Maybe do a few of your favorite objectives and least favorite objectives. So let's just do them all. It's the simplest. Let's just do them all while we're here. Advanced Gunnery. So Advanced Gunnery is decent. Generally, what it is there for is you take a ship that if your opponent picks this objective, they're just going to have a horrific day. So Admiral Akbar on an MC-80. A Kuat with no gunnery teams. and maybe spinals and all the things. You don't put it in lightly though. While the first player gets the huge advantage of I attack the same hull zone, the second player, the second player gets that advantage. The first player's advantage of being able to attack twice. If they can lay hands on 2 of your hull zones, and they'll get to go first. So you just need to be careful. Your advanced gunnery target must have the maddest, fucking craziest damage. Like, the advantage it gains from it must be huge. And a tip I learned from Dr. Alex, I think it was at one of the European Championships, don't be afraid to pick a tiny ship. If you think your opponent has picked advanced gunnery, and let's say they've got a load of bombers, and you're likely to lose your big ship, you'll take them with them, but you'll lose your big ship. Move advanced gunnery. Because if you look at the end of game, the fleet point cost of a destroyed objective ship is doubled. Okay? So if you think you're going to lose the advanced gunnery ship, pick one of your small fries. Blockade run. You want a close range in brawler fleet with this one. I love it, but the Onager makes it a huge problem. Because they can place that Onager further back, you've less room to dodge. So before the Onager, I'd be like all in on blockade run. You really need a fleet that goes fast. Loads of people say don't take it with an ISD. I'm a bit torn on that, because the ISD is going, well, what are you going to do? Go around me? So the ISD will never get across that line, but the only thing is you don't lose any points for unless they've killed the opposing ship. In the age of the Onager, I'm not sure it's as good. Close range intel scan. It's best with red dice, and lots of red dice, and you can do stupid things, and it's fun for building crazy lists with that. It's also decent if you aren't scared of an Onager, because you've got the 2 dust fields. So I don't know that it's a bad choice. It depends what your meta is like. With slower ships, for example, then yeah, close range intel scan. If you're worried about Onagers, stuff like that, the dust fields. I think it's one of the few reds that have dust fields apart from marked for destruction. Ion Storm. I have not played it. It sounds fun. It means hanging around obstacles. Second player gets to place everything. Useful for Romedy. And it gives you basically dice fixing. So it's like, if you want targeting beacons, just pick Ion Storm. Unless you're doing something with a Morello fleet. Don't do something with a Morello fleet. If you think about a Morello fleet and you want to take it, just get agreement from the other person. The thing is hideously complicated. It's going to take you all day to play that game, and if you bring it to a competition, you will be burnt out by the second round. That's my thoughts on Morello. FFG, please fix him. Drop him in points and change his ability, because the people who build fleets around him, I've seen 40, 50, 60 free activations in a game. And it's not broken, I have beaten it, but the experience to play for both players is horrific. Anyway, I'm sidetracked. Marked for destruction. It's dust fields. I have had a Purgle kill a ship in Rebellion in the Rim. I killed an enemy ship with it. I really think you're probably looking at something like either Interdictor, potentially. But but remember, you've actually got to get a critical onto it as well. So it's tricky. I'm not sure how easily you build a ship or a fleet around it, but it's definitely a fun objective. Most wanted. Oh, most wanted. King of the red objectives. King of all objectives, in fact. Because flotillas are so ubiquitous, it is so easy to build around most wanted. And it doesn't matter. They've got an MSU fleet. You just pick their highest value target and you murder it. And then you keep your own one safe. And for killing one ship and maybe even just keeping the rest of your fleet safe, you can kill that ship, walk off into sunset. They plonk their hawk down and go, ha ha ha, most wanted this. And you go, ah, most wanted that CR90 over there. It's just too good, potentially. It's a very big aspect of the meta. And it gives you extra points, and you should be able to, because after deploying, you can pick that isolated element. You can see where you're going to win the fight and where you want to fuck off. Or you can see where the fight is even and make it uneven with this. One thing is, remember, it doesn't work for squadrons. That was errated. So no sending in TIE bombers with 2 black dice. But yeah, like even with something like Saturn, where you're tempted with opening salvo, most wanted is just as good. And it keeps being consistent. And if you're double arcing, most wanted is just better. You know? So anyway, opening salvo. I said before, it's a trap. It is a trap. Okay, second player gets the right 2 dice of any color they want, aka black dice most of the time. First player is rolling 2 red. This is the thing. Let's say you plonk down against an Akbar fleet. They've got one of these. Lovely. No, they won't have one of these. They'll have a B. They'll have a B. So, okay, so your CR90 probably stands a good chance against 5 red dice at long range. Okay? Maybe these guys have some kicking and shoveling. Okay? 5 red dice probably survive it. 7 red dice? Potentially 8 if they have a confire? Like your CR90 or Hammerhead is in a lot more trouble and potentially is just going to explode. So, okay, then you gain back maybe 6 other dice out of it. But then they've got their other ships. And you're losing consistent damage. And you're losing your ships faster. Now, if you most wanted on the thing you want to kill, you're still getting 2 dice. Because you'll get to attack, and the CR90 lives and shoots again. Maybe the CR90 has them double arced. Same with the Hammerheads. Hammerheads are actually tough enough. You throw 7 red dice at a Hammerhead, it's in a lot of fucking trouble. Like, if we look here, you know, as well as that, your MSUs will be taking little bits and pieces here. So I'm not sure, like the bigger ships have a better chance to repair, land on a station, get stuff back. You one wrong bump on a CR90 and that's 2 rounds of repairing. One wrong bump on anything. And because you're likely MSU, you're probably either concentrating fire or trying to maneuver. For all these reasons, I think opening salvo is a trap. It looks so good. But if you look at it next to most wanted. And the other thing then, as I'm saying, like you get 2 dice. Okay, with most wanted, you'll get 2 dice. Yeah. Against 1 ship. Okay. But that's only against 1 ship, James, you're saying. If it's Only one ship. Well, is that their big ship you want to kill? Cool, grand. Taking their big hitter out of it, perfect. But what if they're MSU, James? Well, firstly, if they're MSU, they're getting extra dice off your opening salvo in fucking buckets. But the other thing is, you know, again, with the most wanted, you can, after deployment, pick what you want to kill and keep your target safe. I just think opening salvo is a bit of a mess. And that's why I say it's a trap. Precision-y strikey. Let's get rid of this thing out of the way. You get concentrate fire tokens, which everybody forgets repeatedly. It's obviously not a GARM objective, I would say. And but yeah, it's for bombers. The problem is, for Imperials at the very least, how do I have enough bombers and make sure that I win the fighter battle? So their best admiral for this, for squadrons, is Sloane. With the Rebels, Dudana and some X-Wings, you know, go to town, have a great time. And Luke really enables it. I think it's really just a Rebel bomber objective. It's definitely very interesting. Oh yeah, remember to bring Ahsoka. Where is she? I'm just saying her name wrong. Ahsoka Tano, to make use of all those concentrate fire tokens. Okay, so that's Precision Strike. Rift Assault we have discussed. No, maybe we've discussed Rift Ambush. So force the defender to stay close to the obstacles, and you've got the Gravity Rift. So, for example, if you've got shenanigans, like interdictors, like Ezra Bridger, stuff that can mess with the obstacles, then it might be worth bringing. As well as that, the face down damage card can be interesting. You know, it's the dice are the dice fixing again. It's quite nice. I haven't played enough with it to give an honest answer, but it definitely looks like an interesting one. Station Assault, I really like this. And then they brought out the Onager. And this is the thing. If somebody is an Onager, you don't, they can just snipe those stations. And that's 80 free points. And they don't even need to be that far forward to do it, you know? Because the station has to be beyond distance 3 of your edge, so that means it's out at distance 5. They're shooting out Black Dice turn 1 in the first station, and then moving on to the second one by turn 3. And you're already down, so then you're chasing the game, and you've got to walk into the lion's den. Surprise attack, very fucking flippable. Be careful, have a plan. I think there's 2 ways you can do this. A lot of the Imperial interdictor stuff that messes with speed, and you can, like the Onager that we demonstrated earlier in the video is an example of some of that shenanigans. The other then is to double down on the raids. However, I'm not convinced doubling down on the raid tokens is that great a plan. I think Rebels might be able to pull it off with Rex and Kanan, but the thing is, Rex has got to get close to that flag, because what I do every time when facing this is take the token turn 1, potentially take the token turn 2, or I'll have gotten Comnets to token, and then I'll just burn the dial turn 2. And then I'll have a token for whatever ready on turn 3. So I think here what you want to do is you need to leverage the deployment. You won't get as much leverage out of raid. Now, the exception is if your fucking meta is full of squadrons, this one will annoy the shit out of them. Targeting beacons, marked for destruction I actually prefer. I'm not a fan of targeting beacons unless you're a Morello fleet. Don't take a Morello fleet. We've discussed this. We have discussed this. Yellow. Abandoned mining facility. It's an MSU1. It's an MSU1 that has dust fields. Dust fields you can get rid of when you want. So you can sneak up on those onagers. I really like it. And the one thing here is you can spend and spend and spend, but you don't spend enough to get rid of the dust field if you don't want. So you can use, let's say you have a ship with 4 engineering. Oh, I'll just spend 2 to gain points, and I'll just waste the other 2, and just gain 1 victory token and keep it. And then you can Ezra it forward, for example, or if you have an interdictor, firstly you can move theirs away from them. You can't be doing it turn 1. You would probably want to plan to get on that station eventually. But it definitely opens up stuff. Asteroid Tactics, it's my favorite yellow objective. Bar fucking none. My favorite yellow objective. It gives you obstruction with the executs when you drop them. It gives stuff like Lando his tokens back. It gives Agate her tokens back. It gives Vader his tokens back. And the squad control is really good. Capture the VIP. I have a fast fleet. You're going first. I'm going to nick the token and then move away. And then force you to chase me. It's decent. Most of that's going to give you 6-5, so it won't give you everything, but it's a good way to start. Contested outpost. It's good if you can just sit. I don't think anyone can just sit. I think if you're trying to do what you were doing with contested outpost, you're now doing it with an abandoned mining facility. Because again, the onager is shooting you. If they know where you are, they can sit there and shoot you from distance. Now, if you're an onager, if you're going to win the onager war because you've like 3 or something stupid like that, then yeah. But apart from that, I would avoid contested outpost. Fighter ambush. This is decent. You really want to make sure you're going to win the squadron battle, though. I think it's probably... And this is the problem with all these, is the danger is the other guy can win the squadron battle. The other guy or girl can flip this if they can blow up your squads. So you need to be very sure in your build that you will win the squadron fight. Fire lanes, this is strategic only. You do not take this lightly anymore in case they have Morello. But yeah, fire lanes is a huge point swing if you have strategic. Huge. You just need to be careful and cognizant. And the fact you can place the objective tokens over each other, which is kind of ridiculous. But again, you want a good amount of strategic to be messing with that. Fleet ambush is another trap. Okay, so maybe if you take an interdictor and you do all the speed things, that's grand. But if they can put a demo into your big ship turn 1, along with all their Sloan squadrons, before you get to do anything, you could actually be dead before they are. Before you get a go, your flagship could be a burning wreck. Your CR90 that you're using for activation advantage so you don't get first last by demo gets pounced on and killed turn 1. The amount of ways this can go wrong, even for an early loss of the flotilla, which turns your activation advantage on its head. And I have tried to make it work many times, so have many other people, but the general consensus is it is a bigger trap than anything. Lead in being, it could be quite interesting, particularly against stuff like Sloan, Vader, and stuff like that. even against, for example, the Onager. So yeah, Fleeting Being, I like it. I need to have more practice time with it. Hyperspace Assault. Have you got a demo? Have you got a victory? Have you got an admonition? Which is going to make them cry if it shows up in their backline. Then you, my friend, need Hyperspace Assault. And this is the thing, like people, if your other objectives are horrific, and obviously horrific, they may just forget how bad Hyperspace Assault is. They've got a squadron fleet. Well, suddenly you're on top of that carrier, that Quasar that they thought was going to be safe. It's not safe. You just have to be careful, very careful with your deployments of tokens. Very careful. Also, if you're in a meta that uses a lot of strategic, it can be bad. I like it. I've been terrified of it. When somebody put a victory behind two of my rebel ships forking them, I'm like, that thing is that fast. And then you're like, oh, I'm dead. Where were we? Jamming Barrier. I have not played enough with it. I would definitely take some strategic, not overly much, but a little bit. There is the Moralo danger. If somebody does play that, they can go first and take Moralo. So don't reveal too easily that you've got this. And definitely mix it around a bit. But yeah. It's rather good for stopping onagers and stuff like that. I haven't played it at all, I don't think. Maybe once or twice. Planetary ion cannons. I need yellow. I don't want it to be too complicated. I just want to go pew pew. Then planetary ion cannons is your is the person you're looking for. I don't know that it does enough. I really don't know that it does enough. I think people are scared of it. Certain fleets will fucking hate it. Other fleets will go, that's cute. Because it gets removed. You're getting 3 extra shots. I don't think you're getting enough out of your objective at that point. Rift Ambush. We've already discussed it, but yeah. 2 dust fields, you get to place everything, including Gravity Rift. You can mess with people. You could, for example, this looks really good against an onager. Force them into the Gravity Rift because they got that early move, and then you put them up to speed 2, and then if you've got Titus, you move them speed 3, and then they're running straight at you, and they're like, what have I done? Oh my god, I'm going to die. Why is there a big black hole in the way? Who put me in charge of navigation? I think it's decent. I think I need to play a bit more with it, but yeah, anti-onager tech at the moment. Okay, navigation. Dangerous territories. Solid. I like it with Dudana. You will generally get a narrow lead on the points. If you have ships that really hate landing on asteroids and are a pain in the ass to move, then dangerous territory is grand. Remember, it's only ships that can pick up tokens, not squadrons. It's decent. It's fallen out of my list a bit, and we'll go into why in a minute. Doom Station. It's like Contested Outpost, but you get to move. So, Contested Outpost is a great objective. But its main disadvantage is not written on the card. Its main disadvantage is you have to stay in that one place. This one you don't. You can keep scoring those Doom Station points and bringing the station with you. And when you've got enough, or when you think that station is in danger, you just scoot it up to the Gravity Rift. Because remember, it's within distance 1 to 2. So you can move it 1 when you want to slow roll. You can speed it up to 2 when you want it to go fast. And basically, yeah, if there's an inconvenience obstacle, it can be tricky to use, right? But I have to say I enjoyed it. It's a better Contested Outpost in a different color. Hyperspace Migration. So thankfully this has been clarified a bit, as in you can't score and take a token the same turn. It is a horrific objective though, on the amount. Even now, in terms of the amount of points you score, it can be ridiculous. The disadvantage here again is onagers. So if they know where you're going to sit, then they can onager into that area. However, if you're confident enough that you can get deployment advantage such that you will deploy after any onager, then you can probably take this, because what you can do is you can, once the onager picks a side, you start shuffling everything else over to the other side, and that's where the space wealth comes on. If they have you out deployed though, the danger is they'll go in the center and then just pick. So decent amount of points off it, but onager has me kind of worried again. Infested fields now. Firstly, this is replaced dangerous territories for me, but also this is why the navigational hazards is a complete waste of time. Basically, with squadrons, you can get an almost instant advantage here in points. Without squadrons, you can piss away points to help win the squad or the ship battle or whatever. If you don't have squads, the danger is they're going to pick up more points than you from just throwing their squads onto. To be honest, I think that's fine. You'll probably still pick up one or two from the debris, but you're moving your obstacles. So you're dropping asteroids in front of fleets that don't want them there. The exogarts are trying to eat the squads. You're shifting the battlefields. You're gaining obstruction where you need it. So demos coming in, you know which way it's coming. Oh, look, there's an asteroid there, and the exogart is blocking the line of sight to my side. Or that thing's in my way. Well, it won't be next turn. So you have control of not just your ships, but the obstacles. Okay, you only get to move 2. You have to plan in advance. But it gives you those tactical options that your opponent does not have. And it helps win any squad battle, and it helps an anti-squad fleet. It's just so flexible. And sometimes I'm happy to just let my opponent have all the points and use the infested fields to just hurt them or save my guys. It's just a win-win to my mind. Intel sweep, you need strategic. It can get fairly easy to do. You can go light strategic with this, because you grab the first token, easy enough, on turn 2 if they don't have strategic, and then you grab a second and a third one the turns after that. Just make sure that you have enough ships in your list so that it's not obvious what the objective ship is going to be, and also there is sniping out. I think the best story somebody told me was somebody used Quantum Storm as their objective ship, grabbed a token, and then rammed the other person's flotilla, which was the objective ship, to death. So they first lasted with a flotilla, shot in with Quantum Storm the first turn, whacked them, and then grabbed the token and double whacked them, and they both died, and then they won 75 points. Minefields, please be careful, have a plan. Onagers, strategic, not onagers, interdictors, strategic, stuff like this. If you hit your own mines, you will also explode. I have played this very little. However, one of my friend's first games, I literally taught them how to play on the way in the car, was an Akbar game. His opponent had this objective, he picked it, his opponent ran over his own mines and then got shot by Akbar. That player, having learnt the game on the car down, won that tournament, small enough as it was. Be careful, have a plan, it looks very cool, allows you to set up everything. I think an Onager Interdictor would be an interesting list, but have a plan with this one. Navigational hazards, it's a waste of time. For both you and your opponent, okay? Everybody places things. and then everybody gets tokens if they crash into stuff, and blah 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 blah. Thing is, everyone then ends up moving shit out of their own way. Now, maybe an interdictor can do something with this, but to be honest, it's a lot of paperwork for both you and your opponent. It slows you down. I think in a tournament, this is actually probably going to cost you points simply because you're going to go to time. And for all that time invested in this objective, I don't think you get much out of it. And it's like Infested Fields does many of this, but you give your opponent nothing. You give them the points, but you don't give them any of the level of control. Like, generally, if you're using your move an asteroid in front of them, they're also then using their move an asteroid in front of you. And then it all balances out. Dudana maybe, but even then, I think this is a waste of your time. By the way, with all this advice, if I say something like the Trapper is a waste of time and you think I'm fucking wrong, or you're like, I would like to find out for myself, thank you very much, please feel free to go ahead. I'm only one guy, and I have very strong opinions that are a lot of the time wrong. Salvage run. You need to get in there. You need to grab the objective tokens. However, you have 2 dust fields. You know where the station is going to be, so maybe you have a squad build. And thinking back now to our squad build, this might also be better than superior positions. We go in, grab the tokens, and our squads and our ships are on top. A lot of people like it. I have not played it enough. SensorNet. You have strategic, you have fighter coordination teams, and you plan on not doing anything except collecting points. That's what this objective is about. Tournament list, probably, but fucking practice it beforehand. Friendly game, I wouldn't bother. Really good objective though. Solar Corona, it is the, before Infested Fields, for a lot of people it was their go-to blue. I would like deployment advantage. I do not have squadrons, therefore I will take Solar Corona. And then a lot of people would look at the other 2 objectives and go, well, they're fucking horrific. I'll just take Solar Corona, it will be fine. I don't know that it does enough always to help. Like with the Onager fleet, we put it in there because the deployment advantage is huge. But I don't know that it does enough compared to some other blue objectives. And again, if you're going second, and this is the thing about objectives, if you're going second, your opponent has a massive advantage. The objective is there to balance it out. You need to pick something that really helps you balance it out. For your positions, see my comments on Precision Strike and Fighter Ambush. You need to win the fighter squadron battle, because if you don't, their squadrons are going to farm you for points. If you're Raikkonen, sometimes just let the ship blow up, or they will farm you for points. If you know that you can win the squadron battle, then take this. If you have a no squadron fleet, do not take it. It's decent, it's very squadron heavy, just be careful. Volatile Depositables looks very interesting. I don't think I've ever played it more than once. And yeah, this is the thing. Your opponent knows where you're going. So, like, I'm not sure the cluster effect of the blue critical is enough. Your opponent knows where you're going, you know where you're going, and your opponent can easily score off it. I would say Doom Station is probably better. You probably want to have a long-range blue fleet to do this. Anyway, those are my thoughts on objectives. So let's just point out some good resources for people while we're here. Can't spell. So we've got Can't Get Your Ship Out. Definitely worth the read. At the moment, they're doing a Rebellion in the Rim with the next site I'm going to show you. So definitely, if you're trying to figure out how to build a Rebellion in the Rim or anything like that, obviously ask me, I can help you out, but it's a really good read. It gives you a better understanding of how the campaign works there, you know. And then Steel Command. So they also have some Legion articles, they have tournament data, they've run multiple World Cups, and they're covering the other part of the Rebellion in the Rim. So basically 2 very good resources. I've learned a lot from reading them. But yeah, that's the video for today. I hope this helps. If you'd like a fleet built or something, please, or a topic discussed, throw a comment in the comment section, I suppose. Other than that, have a great day.